the amount of compute that's going to be needed from an average 2 gigabytes per user per month right now to within the next 2 to 3 years, about 200 gigabytes per user per month. That's just oversimplifying on how quickly this space is growing and what the potential is. And as a matter of fact, the money guys actually never really talked about us. We were the necessary evil. We were a cost center, and they've actually now started to realize that we're not a cost center. We are the profit center.
Yeah. I'm joined today by my two editorial advisors for Cool Vector, Mahmood and Phillip Koblence. How are you guys doing today?
Brilliant.
Great. Clearly, Nabeel is putting the cool in Cool Vector with that bomber jacket. My God.
Well, one of us has to be cool. Otherwise, we can't really call it.
Yeah, somebody said it was called like.
Does that make me the vector?
No, you're the vector. Exactly. It's important that people know that we've never actually been in the same room together, but we've been doing Cool Vector for about a year now.
The wonders of modern technology.
Exactly. How many conferences do you guys go to a year?
How many conferences don't we go to a year?
Right.
0.
I think it's very hard to put a number to it. I mean, I know the miles.
Travel.
I learned earlier that you're over the 2 million mile mark.
Yeah, I'm making my 3 million mile mark probably mid next year.
And at what point will the CEO of American Airlines sort of sit next to you on a flight and thank you personally for your contribution to his company? So you guys go all over the world learning about data centers, teaching about data centers. We're here today at the Structure Research Conference in Las Vegas. What have you heard that is worth mentioning?
One of the reasons I love this conference so much is because it's a conference by analysts who basically have a roadshow across the entire year globally, where they go and they really figure out what's happening on the ground and then essentially use this conference to report their findings. Energy is the big, hot button issue in our space. Today, there was a panel on the use of nuclear waste that's plentiful in the U.S. to create additional energy and potentially solve some of the crazy energy gaps that we're seeing.
So, here I thought nuclear waste was bad.
Right. Yeah, apparently nuclear waste is the new uranium.
It's the new black. Right. How about you, Nabeel?
What we are talking about is how the large language models, artificial intelligence is going to change over the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to start seeing that you're going to have LLMs be roughly about 10% of the market, but your inferencing is going to be more dominant at the edge within the next 3 to 5 years.
One thing that I picked up today very clearly is that the industry is changing at a very rapid pace to the point where it's changing on sort of month-to-month basis, not a year-to-year basis.
So almost day to day right
now. We were at the OCP conference right before this, which was amazing. I think they expected 9,000 people after having 7,000 people last year. They ended up with 11,400 people. And one of the keynotes had this one line that said, the last year has been the fastest decade of growth in our industry, and next year is likely to be 2 decades worth of growth. So just the concept of how quickly things are changing, while also having to actually do it and build it, is evident not just from conferences like this, but conferences across the spectrum.
Well, let's talk a bit about Cool Vector, why we're doing it, what it's supposed to be. I'm very interested in data centers because my background is a financial journalist covering the private equity industry. And I noticed that many private equity firms are starting to get into data centers. Data centers require a lot of capital. Private equity firms have capital and they want to raise a lot of capital. And I've been very fortunate to partner with you two, offering me sort of guidance in the data center world. What I find very interesting is the coming together of these massive worlds, these massive industries into what you could call data centers. Private capital, huge. Energy, of course, huge. Technology, and yet data centers are right at the middle of this complex that's developing. So there seems to be a need for just information spread generally, considering all the new entrants to this market.
If you don't understand history, you're bound to repeat some of the mistakes of the past. I think a platform like what we're creating to try to bridge that gap in knowledge and understanding the nuances of our industry. I mean, I remember being at this conference a decade ago when DRT acquired Telex for $2 billion, and then got to this conference today where Aligned was acquired for $40 billion.
Right. I mean, that news just came out this morning.
The exponential growth and money around what it takes to capitalize on our industry is phenomenal. And I think that the more knowledge that we can share, the more bridges that we can create to new capital that needs to come into the industry, that desperately needs capital, as intensive as it is incredibly important.
Yeah, so I would just sort of like oversimplify what Phil said, right? So Winston from the office space has actually left the basement and he's actually moved into a beautiful corner office. Without Winston, there's nothing. I mean, there's no GDP, there's no global economy. Yes, that's the guy. That's the guy. That's
the great hero. That means exactly. I was the stapler guy, and now
for 30 years.
And now I'm Bell of the Ball.
Yeah. So Winston's actually sitting. Winston's actually sitting at every board table, and Winston's getting all the attention right now because we are in the data rush era. And this is at the beginning of time. I mean, what's to come, like Phil said, over the next year, 2, 3, is just absolutely mind-boggling. And the pace that we're growing, and the fact that, bits and bytes are now at our fingertips.
The capital coming in has expectations attached to it. So people from the largest institutions to individual investors are increasingly going to have their capital tied up in digital infrastructure. And so I think they should know, first of all, what is it and how is it expected to perform? And what is the downside? If I'm a state pension fund and I have $1 billion in a $50 billion data center campus, is it going to happen? And is it going to deliver a rate of return in the teens? Am I going to make like a 10x? Like, what's going to happen? So that is going to be a focus of what we talked about as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, like with the platform with Cool Vector and what Nomad Futurists and some of the other initiatives and charters are doing is to demystify and simplify that so they can ask the right question and make the right decisions.
Now, I do want to ask you two about how you know each other, and maybe you could reveal something about each other that perhaps the world doesn't know.
I suppose the world will know that there was a time that I had hair. And this is what this industry has done to me.
So Nabeel took it all? Is that
clearly? I mean, when I met him, I had a long, luscious locks. Actually, that's not true. If you follow Nomad Futurist on LinkedIn, if you follow the Nomad Futurist podcast, which we started together in 2020, and the foundation that came out of it, we started this journey as just like recognizing an issue and starting a podcast just to try to bring some recognition to the same folks coming to conferences year after year. And what caused us to actually move to the kind of 501c3 nonprofit platform to actually do something about it were actually life-changing issues where, Nabeel had a heart attack with me on a tennis court in 2021. So there were some real world like things that happened where this initiative was born out of. So it just, there's that underpinning of authenticity to what we bring to it and the impact that we've been able to have in such a short period of time because it was born out of like such a fundamentally real experience.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's connected us very well. I mean, he almost killed me, but he saved me as well.
Remember, if Phil asked you to go play tennis,
Right.
remember the story of Nabeel.
It's been difficult to get a partner ever since.
Doubles. I mean, this is not just friendship. I mean, it's brotherhood. We have total opposite personalities, and that creates that sense of balance.
And,
Right. I usually drag everyone down. I'm sorry.
But that creates that balance, and that makes this, friendships just absolutely amazing.
We're trying to make it like an industry that people want to join. And in the same token that we're trying to achieve that with students and folks in the next generation, we're trying to do the same thing with capital that's on the sidelines that really wants to participate in this kind of booming.
I think one thing the three of us have in common is that we're all very curious about the world. We're curious about the direction of the world. And there's probably no force greater than the digital infrastructure complex, whatever you want to call it, that is going to shape the future of humans, basically. So it's a great top. I'm very pleased to have you two as river guides. What do we forget? What joke is left to tell?
I think where is the edge, right? I mean, if you can tell us where the edge is,
Okay.
Hopefully you don't jump off it.
In one sentence, where's the edge?
The way I answer this, and this might be 2 sentences, is I am not a flat earther and the world is a sphere. And as a consequence, a sphere has no edges. So there is no edge. It's everywhere.
You are the edge.
You are the edge.